Welcome in YouTube. Today we're talking about that controversial topic when it comes to the gas metal arc welding process, and that's push versus pull. We're going to dive in deep on today's episode. Now when it comes to MIG welding, GMAW, we all know, everyone says they have to push it. You have to push it when it comes to gas metal arc welding, and you have to stay to the leading edge of your puddle, which is all true. But can you get away with dragging? I say yes. I say there's always a time and place, and there's going to be times when you have to wrap corners and you're not always going to be maintaining a certain push angle. But just how much does that actually affect your weld and the depth of penetration, the height and weld size? When it comes to talking short circuit transfer versus spray transfer, there's definitely a big difference. So today what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take two sets of coupons. I've got 3/8 plates here. We went ahead and cut the whole stick out. We went and picked it up at Metal General, 14 bucks for this big hunk of steel. And we went and chopped it up with the Thermocut Extra Fire. It was the easiest way to cut through this 3/8 plate. We went and tacked it up at a T-joint. We cleaned everything up with our 3M abrasives. That Cubitron 3 is really great for taking off mill scale. And we're also going to be testing it with an etch, so we're going to be able to see the depth of penetration. And I went and found two different brands, well, the old trusty Navel jelly from Loctite, and then just some, I think, off-brand stuff. You get these at a lot of your auto zones and auto O'Reillys. That's where I found these two brands. We'll see if they do anything different, but this is that over-the-counter stuff. None of that prescribed, all that crazy acid that's a little bit more expensive. So today I got Bo, my right-hand man, in the house with me today. Say hi, Bo.
Hey, everybody.
Bo's back there. Going into what we're doing with this machine, we're going to be working in two different types of transfers. We're going to be working in short circuit transfer, and don't quote me on this, but that's going to us staying lower into the teens. That's how I like to think about it as far as the rule of thumb. You start getting into your 20 volts and a little bit higher, especially 21, 22, you start getting up there, and now you're going to be in that globular transfer, which it has its place, but it's not always desired with a little bit of spatter that it involves. And then we're going to move up past that globular transfer and into spray. Now that being said, we're going to be working on these two different T-joints in both short circuit and spray transfer. So we're going to do one side spray, one side short circuit, and we're going to start off with either our neutral angle and move into a complete push with both the short circuit and the spray, and then we're going to use the other T-plate and do a drag from a neutral to a drag all the way to a severe drag with the short circuit and the spray transfers. I think this is going to give us some really good evidence, and we'll chop it up down the plate and see the different depths of penetration and weld sizes that we'll get with both transfers, so we get a lot of information. For our short circuit, we're going to go ahead and push and pull these coupons at 19 volts and 280. When it comes to short circuit transfer, I know 3/8 plate is pretty much out of its work zone, but that's what today's experiment is all be about. And don't worry, it's hot enough in my shop today that we're still at a nice 90 degrees sitting here in the shade. So we'll do a bead right now. We're going to start neutral and then move into an extreme drag angle with the short circuit transfer. Neutral, start out. We're not going to put any motion in this. We're going to really just rely on bead size and profile. Definitely is a really cold weld for this 3/8 plate. I'm going to start leaning back a little bit more. We're probably somewhere in like 30 degrees of a drag angle. Sounds good, the machine sounds good. Oh man, but I don't like not being able to do any motion on this weld. And it doesn't look like we're getting to the leading edge of that puddle. Kind of staying more definitely to the top high end of it. Start leaning back a lot. A lot. Now we're staying really high up on our weld and not into the root of stuff. Just piling a bunch of metal up there. We still got a good sound. Our contact to work distance is definitely getting much bigger. But our weld, I bet is just not penetrating whatsoever. Starting to get a little bit farther away from our weld, leaning back so far. How much more weld do I gotta do? Almost done. We're leaning back. Once I get past this edge, we're like basically laying flat with it. And that's just nasty. Alright, now we're gonna do with the short circuit. Start with neutral, move into a crazy push. Nice and neutral. Trying to stay towards that leading edge. We probably got, this is a new plate, so it's not preheated. Remember, we're going to start pushing now. Get a little bit more of a push angle. This isn't going to give us a really good demonstration on 3/8 plate. We probably should have done this short circuit on something thinner, because this thing just looks so cold. But if anything, we get a good reason why this short circuit transfer isn't used for materials that are 1/4 inch or thicker. We've got the mill scales cleaned up. Like, it's good steel ready to weld. It's just too thick for this cold transfer. And that's why we got to move into that spray transfer. But we're going to start leaning that gun back a lot. You'll see a lot more spatter. A lot more spatter in this weld. And that's one of the downfalls of pushing a short circuit weld. There's all that spatter that you're going to get. But nothing a little anti-spatter won't fix. We're getting towards the end of the plate, I think. We're going to really start laying her flat. Oh, and we're spittering, sputtering. No really good reason to even test that back there. Now, it's definitely a cold way to get some 3/8 welded. So we're definitely going to go up in that voltage. This EMP 285 can get way up there. We're not going to go quite into the 30s because now we're operating a little bit hotter than that 035 wire really likes. But somewhere around 28 volts, I think is going to be plenty. And then we're going to need, obviously, to turn that up. Probably turn it closer to 500 on that inches per minute. And it's kind of nice. You can almost see these two little percent bars. If you keep those two kind of lined out, this isn't in the smart MIG, but you always want to adjust your voltage to your wire feed. And keeping those little bars leveled out kind of helps. All right, now we even got a little bit of preheat in the plate, so this 3/8 should be ripe and ready to weld. With this spray transfer, we're doing our drag method first, starting at neutral, working back to that crazy drag angle. Now this isn't a true spray transfer if you don't have the right shielding gas. And it still kind of sounds like globular real quick. Globular transfer. Does anyone even use globular anymore? Let us know down in the comments. We're gonna max it out. Screw it. Pin it. Let's see what happens. Let's see some spray. There we go. Now we're going to start dragging. Obviously we have a considerable amount more travel speed involved. Really just digging a hole with the voltage we're using. I'm going to start really laying this gun back. It elongates that puddle quite a bit. And man, oh man, it's been a hot looking puddle. We got a crazy amount of drag. Oh goodness. It's definitely slowing things down the more I put a drag angle on it, because it's starting to pile up and not be in the root, not coming with me. Starting to get that really long punch. Ow! 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 Hot balls of fire everywhere. Goodness gracious. Alright, now we're going with that violent spray again. We're going to do that neutral push to a violent push. Trying to stay ahead of that puddle with a neutral angle. Half inch contact work distance. Start leaning things back a little bit. I like this better. Definitely like the way the puddle's shaping. A
little bit of a jump there, bounce. Alright, I'm going to start leaning back a lot more. There we go, spatter. Still not as bad as leaning back with the drag angle, surprisingly. My chair keeps shooting me. Crazy lean back.
Definitely the push was, I mean, the weld looks way better, less spatter. It's almost like reverse, it seems. Like with this spray transfer with the push, we're getting less spatter, whereas the short circuit transfer, we pushed it, we got more spatter. Definitely pushing that spray was night and day different than pulling it. Now I'm not going to go ahead and take a fillet weld gauge to any of these things because, you know, visually you can see that there's a big difference in the gun angle. Now remember, we started off with a neutral gun angle, and I feel no matter if you're pushing or pulling, you can get away with the neutral because it's kind of neither, you know. But this is our drag, okay? If you notice, this is the spray transfer drag. We got a lot more spatter up this. We got a lot more of this smoke, this soot. If you guys know what that smoke or soot is, we seem to have gotten it both on our drag methods, but not almost at all on our push method. So if you know what that smoke is and why it does it on a drag versus the not on the push, leave it down in the comments below. Let me know, because I'm not really sure why it does it, but we got it definitely with the drag. And again, we didn't put a lot of motion in the circuit transfer. If I was welding something this heavy and I had to only have that much voltage, I would have definitely tried to put some oscillation. However, we wanted to keep those variables to a minimum, so we just kept that drag and then started leaning back really far. You can see the weld size is just much taller towards the end than at the back, and that also contributes to the tie-ins on the toes. We've got a lot of cold lap happening right here because of that gun angle being so far back, hitting the top of the puddle and not the bottom of that root of the weld. So we definitely have a lot of different depths of penetration. I can almost guarantee it on this. We move on to the push beads. It really on the push, like we got almost all the way down and starting to change that push angle, and it really didn't change it a whole lot. We saw a lot of spatter. Luckily in the short circuit transfer, it's not super hot, so it's not super sticky to the plate, and it was able to just kind of bounce off. But we did have a lot more spatter on that push angle over here to the point where we get to the end, we really can't have much of a weld or even stay in our puddle because of so much gun angle. And then we move to the push with the spray transfer. Definitely the best weld of the three because of, you know, obviously it's made to weld on this 3/8 plate. That ESOP 285 Rebel pushed those beans for us, and we were able to get a nice spray transfer weld. These little jumps over here is from me bouncing, but you really just have to push it. We didn't run with the true spray gas. We just used 75-25 mixed gas because that's all I had here. But what we'll end up doing next is cutting a little bit of the cross section out in 3 or 4 spots of each of these welds, and then we'll sand blend them, etch them, and see if we can tell the difference in not only that weld size a little bit better, but the depth of penetration. While we wait for the other coupon to get cut, we're going to go ahead and start prepping these pieces. So we've got everything cut out in sections, all right? But in order to get, this is like the bare minimum to get started if you want to do a cross-sectional etch on your weld. You can go get some nicer acids and stuff in order to see them a lot better, but we're going to use and test out these 2 methods that were pretty much a go-to for over-the-counter, is that Navel Rust Loctite and then Permatex Rust Dissolver Gel. I would assume they're both going to work. We'll just see which one shows up the nugget a little bit better. But in order to see the weld nugget really clear, you got to take all of these scratches out from the bandsaw. So in order to do that, it's pretty simple. You don't have to get it to a mirror polish, but the more you clean it, the better you see it. So we've got kind of a 60 grit right here, flap disc, and then we're going to move over to the Scotch-Brite clean and strip wheel. These 2 etchants take best whenever the material is warm. So we'll clean it a little bit with acetone, get the surface prepped, and then we'll go ahead and use some of our etch, put it on there, let it sit for a while. We'll apply that etch with our Q-tip and then rinse it off with some water and wipe it and see if we can't see it. We'll probably put a little clear coat on there because that'll help just preserve it and keep things from rusting while we wait for everything to get done. All right, so check it out. We've got everything cut, we've got everything polished up and etched, and as far as the etchers go, Loctite Navel Jelly definitely took the cake. But I did go ahead and lay out each one of these coupons with the weld nugget size with the marker that we're on. So just to let that be known, this is our drag samples, these are our push samples. I think we did this experiment pretty good. However, I think we could have done it better. Let us know down in the comments what you think. One thing that we couldn't really compare on this end is we started off our pull version with less voltage than we did here. We ended up having to turn it up because I was like, that ain't spray. So our nugget for the spray transfer on the actual drag is pretty small. Now this is the very end. This is 5, which I'm calling, you know, the 5th stage, which is super lean back. And that nugget, you can see a lot of incomplete fusion in the bottom. This isn't a real fair fight for short circuit MIG though. However, if we do go to the neutral position of the spray transfer, which shouldn't be push or pull, we've got a deep dive and nugget right into the thickness of this thing. And then we of course have our 5, which again, this is our push coupon, right? So we still got some good fusion in there. But let's go ahead and move that one out of the way. This is the same nugget. Again, I think we could have done this better, so that's really kind of irrelevant to even look at. Same thing with these two. They're pretty much the same coupon because we cut them from the same face. So we'll just take a better look at these two here. This is the drag again over here versus the actual push. This is the 3 and the 3. That's what I'm calling the 3rd stage of the push and of the pull. So this is where we're going to see a lot of the different some of the same similarities. We're running the same voltage at this point all the way across. So this is our drag coupon. We can see the nugget is a little round. This is kind of wide comparatively speaking to the push pattern here, whereas we got a little bit deeper penetration into that push compared to the other where it's wider. Both of the weld nuggets on the 3rd stage here, whether it was push or pull, look very similar. I think we have very similar characteristics, almost opposite of the actual spray transfer. It almost looks like it's a little bit wider over here compared to that one, which is just curious. This is just what I'm finding out versus on this experiment. It could have been done maybe a little bit better. We can bring up the next stage here. This is again our push coupon. This is leaning back quite a ways at this point, and this is not leaning back too far. We're getting closer to that neutral position with short circuit. We still have a little schmids of incomplete fusion in every single one of these short circuit welds until we get to the neutral position on each of them, and that little spot gets to be the smallest. If we're looking at the stage 4, then we got a pretty, like, it's just like very V-shaped when it comes to that push angle, more penetration. Stage 4 of the push, also a very V-shaped. So that's just kind of curious. And then we get to the very end of it and we see kind of strange results at the very end of the stage 5 of the push compared to the stage 5 of the pull. One's just really wider compared to the other. I think we got some good and bad information here. We probably could have done it a little bit better, but let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Maybe ways of doing it a little bit better. You know, some of the key takeaways from this video, and I know that the variables could have been a little bit more consistent. I would honestly like to see maybe a robot do that. Start it at a neutral position and then start going all the way across, and then maybe having more of a consistent marking pattern so that we can get a little bit more consistent with the coupons that we're pulling. Outside of that, my takeaway from this is know your material thickness. 3/8 plate is no match for short circuit. We can obviously see that with the nuggets there. You shouldn't be even attempting it. We should be using some other process or pulse MIG or spray. Outside of that, when it comes to your angle, I think that you can always get away with the neutral. If you can keep it perpendicular to wherever you're working, don't matter as long as you're neutral. Okay, you can even get away with that 5-degree drag or push because we're kind of still neutral. It's when you get to that 10, 15, 20 degrees of those pushes or drags that you really got to be a little bit more mindful of. But that all aside, let us know what you think. Please get down in those comments and check out our links down in our description below from our trusted partners. We've got a lot of killer deals for you all down there and below. We'll see you guys on the next weld. Let me start over. All we've done is just cut and prep plate, and I'm already sweating. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it and sweat a little bit more. Sweat's running down my nose, but I like the profile of that being a little bit better. Oh, dabble, do ya?